Welcome to the final part 3 of this pet portrait tutorial in oil. I'm Marion Dutton, and in this video I'm covering the final details in pet portraits to really bring your pet to life. We're going to begin by covering the canvas with a very thin coat of oil medium, and again I'm just wiping away that excess. Now it is very important that your initial layer from part 2 is completely dry. This procedure is called oiling out, and it is something I do with all of my portraits and my pet portraits at each and every stage. I make sure they're thoroughly dry, and then I will oil out before I begin another layer. I'm beginning in the eyes, and I'm just reinforcing all of the colours that I initially placed down in the first colour glazes. And once again I'm keeping all of the paint very thin. It is much better to do 5 or 6 or 7 layers of very thin paint rather than do anything very thick and heavy. Here you can see I'm really reinforcing the sparkle in the eyes and highlighting parts of the white of the eyes. So at this stage you're really paying attention to those final details. I always like to look for my lighter lights and my darker darks. Here you can really see I'm paying attention to the little details around the eyes, and I'm using a very small detail brush so that I'm able to get those very fine details of hairs and hair-like strokes around the eyes. So here I'm beginning to add some lighter hair strokes inside the brows, always being aware of the direction that the hair is growing. Again, I'm using a very small flat chisel brush so that I'm able to get some really fine lines. Here I'm recoating the nose with yet another black glaze. Just as before, I'm just putting a very thin glaze of black over the entire nose, and then working some highlights into that, and then some stronger black for the details and inside the nostril. And now I'm using a very dark mixture, almost black, for putting those final details onto the black fur. Again, pulling those little strokes in the direction that the hair is growing. And if you remember when we did part 2, I did avoid using black. Now on the final part I will actually use black. I don't want to cover all of that beautiful undercolour, but we can actually use that black now to really enhance the colour in the hair. So we're really now looking for the dark within the dark, and when we come to do the white fur we'll be looking for the light within the light. So our real extreme contrast now is what we look for on the final stages. Everything is applied very thinly into that initial wet glaze of medium that we put on at the very beginning. I don't add extra medium to the paint. And of course softening everything with the mop. Now here I'm back to that blue-grey, and I'm starting to pull a few of the lighter hair strokes over the dark that I've already placed down now. Again, on this final stage, we're just focusing on getting the little hairs that overlap. So you don't actually have to paint every single hair, but you do give that illusion as you overlap dark over light and light over dark. You give the illusion that you've painted hundreds of little hairs. And I add a little extra white to that blue-grey to really get some lighter lights inside of that blue-grey tone, and this will make the hair look very, very shiny. I'm now moving on to using white now. Again, if you remember, on the first colour stages, we avoid using pure white, and that's so that we can actually reserve it for this final highlighting stage. So I'm really looking now for those tiny little hair details. Here I'm highlighting the toes, the hair around the toes and the nails. And here you'll see me adding thicker white to really bring some highlights into the white on the muzzle. Using that brush right on the chiseled edge, you're really able to get some very fine little details. Again, pay attention to the way that the hair is growing. This is very, very important. And here I'm reinforcing the shadows on the carpet. I'm using very similar colours to the first colour stages, really strengthening the shadow so it looks like the head is actually lying on that carpet. This really adds some depth to the painting. I'm using the dome blender here to keep everything nice and soft so it has that feel of carpet. So finally I'm going over the whole portrait now, pulling some finer hairs out into that background, reinforcing some more darks and reinforcing the highlights. So again, focusing on the contrast. And of course softening everything with that mop so it really does have the feeling that this is hair and it's very soft and tactile. Here you'll see me using that lighter blue-grey to sort of add some shine now to some of the curls on the ear. And picking out a few of those finer, lighter lights. Some of the little eyebrow areas, and again softening with that mop. I'm now using a rigger brush and I've thinned the paint down with a little bit of the medium and I'm pulling out some of these whiskers. Now in actual fact this may be better you do this at a fourth stage and do this when it's dry, and that way then if you don't actually like one or two of the whiskers that you make, or you make one or two that are a little bit too big, you can always wipe them off with a Q-tip. So that might be something you might want to do separate from this third and final layer. I'm using the rigger again now just to put some finer little details in and a few of those very fine hair strokes. And finishing everything with that mop. And all that's left to do is actually sign the painting. I'm using thinned down paint and the rigger brush. And here's the finished painting. I do hope you've enjoyed seeing my painting process, and if you have, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell notification. And if you have enjoyed this tutorial and you'd like to see more from this channel and support the channel, I have actually opened a Patreon account, and I'll put the link in the description below. I'll also put the reference photo that I've actually used for this painting in the description below if you want to paint along with me. And if you would like to paint along with me, please consider joining the MazArt Facebook group where you can share your versions there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.